What is going on, everybody? At long last, we are back, baby. As Skip Bayless said one time on Undisputed, we are back. What it do, baby? Welcome back to the Big Five Pod. Excuse me, episode number 55. We've been waiting on this a long time. Our schedule's been busy. We'll do a little bit of explanation before we get into things, but we're excited to be back. I am, of course, your co-host Kyle Morello, and next to me, my very good friend, my brother, Jake Copestick. How we doing?
Kyle, we're doing well. I see you got a football jersey on.
Oh
I
yeah.
got some Broncos stuff on. It was a great day. For the first time in 8 years, in nearly 3,000 days, the Denver Broncos beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I was a sophomore in high school the last time that happened. I'm almost out of college a year, and that's after doing 4.5 years and not just four. So it's been a very, very long time. Super excited. Usually Sundays are miserable and they're bad and the Broncos get smashed, but they won today. They beat the Chiefs. Mahomes' first ever loss on the road in the division. For
Wow.
once, for once, it's a great
For
day to be
once.
Broncos.
You know what? I'm happy for you. I was watching Red Zone when that game was going on. I was like, you know what, Cope Stick, let's go. Obviously when we watched the Jets Broncos game together, that was not your reaction. Can't say the same for me. It was a good day. Ugliest game of football I've ever seen in my life today between the Jets and the Giants. The Battle of New York did not go according to anybody's plan. Um, Crazy amount of injuries. Jets somehow pulled a rabbit out their ass and they won the game. So we'll take it. We're 4-3 now. So yeah, but enough of football, Cope, because we're getting toward the end of October here. This is the last weekend of October right now, which means you ready? College basketball is back. College basketball is back. Season number 2 of this podcast here, the Big Five Pod. Season 2 of us breaking down stuff. We're gonna get into that in the next couple episodes after this. But right now, we're gonna catch up on things that we haven't been able to go over since about the end of July. So Cope, I'm gonna give it to you. Cope's quick hitters, which we introduced in the last episode, before we took our hiatus for schedules and stuff, which I said I was gonna mention. So actually, let me get that first. Cope Stick, you got a job, working crazy, crazy hours for the last few months. And I've still been with the union, and we've had Leagues Cup and the end of the regular season. And now the first game of the playoffs happened on Saturday. Um, so we would like to apologize for our absence. We did not intend for this to happen. I think our schedules kind of caught up to us a little bit. But like I said, the season's back. We're going to be back. And we're excited to break this down for you. So with that being said, Cope, take it away.
Yes. After basically working 80, almost 90-hour weeks. Very, 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 very hard to do any kind of preparation besides just going home and sleeping. Sometimes I have sleep for dinner because I don't even eat. I'm so tired when I get home. But regardless, for the first time in a couple months, well, give me the ball. Let me run the point. Let's run the break. Cope's quick hitters. Pretty short today, even though we've got a lot more bigger fish to fry to catch up on. Let's talk about some staff hires. Corey Fisher added to Villanova's coaching staff. Of course, was on the '09 Final Four team. The reason why I became a big college basketball fan, the reason why I became a Villanova fan, with that Scotty Reynolds shot against Pittsburgh. He is now a student athlete development assistant on the coaching staff. According to Villanova's website, this is a role to, in quotes, introduce former players to the coaching business, and has formerly been filled by a bunch of former players. Shocker, we know Villanova likes to bring back their own. This is how they do that. They show people and former players the coaching side, which allows them to come back in a coaching role. Formerly filled by Jason Fraser, Curtis Sumter, Brooks Sale, Mike Nardi, of course, an assistant coach on the staff now, Errol Reynolds, who was on the 2016 national championship team, and most recently Chris Jenkins, who, if you're a Villanova fan, maybe you've heard about the guy before. Also talking about staff hires, we'll talk about Lynn Greer, second all-time leading scorer at Temple, was a part of 2 Elite 8 teams under John Chaney with the Owls. He was just hired by Adam Fisher as their chief of staff. He's going to join Khalif Wyatt as another former Owl to hop on the staff. Of course, Chris Clark is there, but he was retained. So another former Owl joined the mix here for Adam Fisher's staff in Lynn Greer. He will be their chief of staff. His son, Lynn Greer, the third, of course, plays on Hawk Hill for Billy Lang and the St. Joe's Hawks. And speaking of the St. Joe's Hawks, Kyle, when you think of them, you think of the Hawk mascot. You think of the Hawk will never die. You think of whoever is underneath that costume. with the greatest stamina of all time, flapping their wings, running around the whole time. Well, the Hawk got a little bit of a redesign. Apparently, the manufacturer does not make the feathers anymore. It's just kind of like a fur coating sort of thing. Personally, the feathers were cool. I get that they were a pain in the ass. The referees got to pick it up between stoppages. The feather, shedding everywhere. But the Hawk got a redesign. Looks a little bit different. No matter how it looks, can't forget about the Hawk. The Hawk is notorious. You always know the Hawk is from those. So, bit of a redesign there. New age for the Hawk. But we all know, can't forget about the Hawk. Always know what it is. Bit of a redesign, though. And that's all I got for Cope's quick hitters. We have a bunch of stuff that we missed, but a lot of big stuff that is certainly not worth just glancing over. We have a lot of big stuff, including recruiting. So, Kyle, why don't you kick us off?
I would love to. First and foremost, we talked about this player quite a lot in the offseason on the recruiting trail. Obviously, he's a top 10 recruit. Jalil Bethea officially signing with Miami. Obviously, you've seen a lot of Philly guys go down there. It's a lot of people that Villanova have been interested in to go down there in both circles. So he was in Villanova's Final Four. Nova was in his Final Four, excuse me. Like I said, number 9 ranked player in the 24/7 Sports Top 100. Cope, we talked a lot about this guy, so I'm not sure I really need to break down his game any further, but how much would he have boosted this Villanova recruiting class, which we'll get into in a second, but how much would he have boosted it and gotten them ready for a great recruiting class next year?
Well, he would have been, it would have probably would have been best in the country to be qualified, or it would have been up there.
Yeah.
I mean, to add a 5-star, to add a top 10 guy from the city, one of the if not the best shooter in the entire class, it would have Villanova would have been easily, far and away one of the best. Probably definitely the Big East, one of the best in the entire country. The only reason not was maybe because they, having one 5-star recruit probably won't match up to the Duke or the Michigan State or like Kentucky that's going to nab 4 of them in one class. But it would have been one of the best in the country. It's still a very good one at that we'll get into, but monster get for Miami, for DJ Irving, their assistant, who's done very well recruiting up here, just as Adam Fisher did. Another Philly guy in the pipeline going down there. I'm sure, when you endure winters up in this area and you go down to Coral Gables for a visit, it's probably a very easy choice as to why you'd want to go there, Kyle. I would imagine that didn't take a whole lot of convincing. The basketball isn't very good. They obviously just made their first Final Four in the Hurricanes. Jim Larrañaga, I believe he just signed a contract extension to basically finish his career out with Miami. So in a good conference in the ACC Power 5, the NIL opportunities, I'm sure, are boundless there for Jalil Bethea. And of course, he's a damn good basketball player. He's number 9 for a reason. He skyrocketed with the summer he had and how well he played last season. So sucks to miss out on a guy like that for Villanova, but at the same time, as good as the Big East has been, he can go play in a Power 5 conference for sure, night in and night out with everything that comes with it from Miami. So sucks to lose out on this guy, but to go to a Power 5 school like that, be kind of in the mix is big. And he was kind of one of their last misses. Then they went on a nice little run here that we'll talk about.
Yeah, and listen, why don't we get right into it? Because no point in talking about someone who's not going to be here anymore. I mean, obviously we missed out. Villanova did, and it would have been a great add to an already great recruiting class now that this shaped up. So let's get into it. Villanova with 3 other recruits that came in after that: 4-star Matthew Hodge, 4-star Josiah Mosley, and 3-star Malcolm Thomas, all committing to Villanova over a slew of other Big East and other schools, major schools in the country. Cope, before recording, you and I talked about Matthew Hodge a little bit, and I definitely want to ask you about him. But overall, between the 3 of these guys, I know you're probably going to say Hodge is most excited for, so I'm not going to ask you that. But how do you see them all fitting into, the team that is already existing? Obviously, there's going to be some guys leaving this year, so you kind of mix them in with some of the young guys they have already. But how do you see the guys fitting in Villanova?
So yeah, they're going to be asked to probably have some sort of role next year. You look at the 4 5th-years that are in Villanova's starting lineup, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities, a lot of minutes to be had on this team. And these guys are coming into a good situation. So the one thing that really sticks out, especially with Hodge and Josiah Mosley, is their versatility. You know what Villanova wants. They want to play positionless basketball. And when you have guys like Hodge and Mosley who are big, can play the three, can play the four, can do a lot of different things for it. They're gonna fit right in. And you add that in with a Mark Armstrong, with a Brendan Housen, with a Jordan Dumont, who might have a role this year, might have to basically have a pseudo red shirt with the depth in front of them. They're gonna blend them pretty well with everybody that's here. But for them to go and tear the way they did, they missed on a ton of guys this year. They missed out on a Thomas Sorber. They just missed out on Jaleel Bethea, like we talked about. They missed out on a lot of local guys, but then they were able to get a bunch of guys from the DMV. You have Hodge from North Jersey. You're able to get some guys like this and then go on the streak that they did. Kyle Neptune answering a lot of questions here. But they worked the portal. They needed to last year. You got that done. After a bunch of recruiting misses, got some pretty damn good ones in a very short stretch here. So I think these guys will all fit in. And that's the one thing when you look at all three of these guys, and we're going to talk about this when we get to St. Doe's as well. They fit the identity of what Villanova wants. It's that versatility piece, that toughness piece, that IQ piece, the attitude that Villanova wants these guys to have. And when you already come in with that, you're going to fit in probably pretty seamlessly. So these guys, when I'm telling you what sticks out, they just have the DNA of what a Villanova player should be. And that's why they're going to succeed here. And like I said, there's going to be opportunities for them to have a role right away as soon as they get on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with the quality of the players that they are coming in. I mean, sometimes schools will recruit maybe not as highly touted players, and they'll have them sit a little bit, develop, especially at Villanova, which is a typical like 4-year school when there's not a whole lot of those left in college basketball. Maybe it'll change now with NIL, of course, but it's really good to see. And like you said, it definitely answered a lot of Kyle Neptune questions, because after year one, which didn't go so great, obviously you said they needed to hit the portal. They did that. But then it's also, okay, well, once all those players leaves, who are you going to replace them with? Now they got some guys to replace them with, and they are some guys, believe me. So excited to see how 2024 will go for Nova. Obviously, 2023 is going to be a very big year too, so we'll focus on that too. But recruiting also very much matters. Speaking of, St. Joe is definitely not sitting back at all in our recruiting class. They landed 2024 recruit Makai Johnson and 2024 Newman Goretti point guard Kafik Myers. Two pretty decent gets for Billy Lang here, and continuing a trend for him, because obviously we talk about this recruiting class that just came in, which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot this year, to go along with all of the senior Latin guys that they have. Now you got two more guys coming in next year to add to the class that they already have this year. I mean, is this kind of turning a new leaf here with Billy Lang and his recruiting? Do you think this is going to be the new norm for St. Joe's?
Yeah, I mean, they can certainly. Here's the one thing that ever since Billy Lang's been there, he's been able to recruit. I mean, maybe the win-loss record isn't there, but he's been able to get good players on campus. And he's been able to recruit the city very well. And Justin Scott has a lot to do with that, who got Xavier Brown, who got Anthony Finkley, who got the Sear Haskins, and has been very active with that. So it's now time to start putting wins on the board and to start, making a deep run. And they made a solid, really good run the A10 tournament. Now, how about a top 5 finish this year? I think they can have. It's time to start winning some games because the players are here and the talent's here. And we'll talk about that in there when we preview all 6 teams in the city. But my God, this team is talented. And they've done a great job recruiting. And now you're seeing that he has all his guys that he recruited pretty much in the program. And across all 4 classes, even with Cameron Brown as a 5th year, who he basically inherited when he got there. Like, this is a damn good team, and he's continuing to replenish the talent and continuing to be hot on the recruiting trail. Like Makai Johnson, I really like Kafik Myers, though. Makai Johnson picked St. Joe's over Coastal Carolina, ETSU, and Towson from Bishop Ireton in Virginia. He's the son, how about this, of Kenny Johnson, who's currently an assistant on Archie Miller's staff at Rhode Island, and former Louisville and LaSalle assistant. Well, Ashley Howard was there. So pretty cool ties there. You have Kenny Johnson's son now coming to the city you probably love to play for, St. Joe's. And shocker, you know what his skill set is, Kyle? As a 6'5" shooting guard, he can shoot the 3 ball and defend. Exactly what Billy Lang is looking for.
You
right
don't
up
say.
his alley. So he'll fit in. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of talent, like I said, across all classes. Maybe if Eric Reynolds could leave for the draft potentially after this year, you're gonna be without Cameron Brown this year, who's using his 5th year. So there's probably going to be some guard minutes there, even with the young class they have coming in. And then with Kafik Myers, Saw him play, in the Catholic League Championship the last 2 years. Um, Small guy, 5'10", listed at 5'10", 150 on Rivals and 24/7 Sports. But here's the thing. He might be a little guy. That dude's got some serious juice with the ball in his hands, some serious speed and some pop. He's very, very crafty around the basket and embodies everything that a Philly guard is. Super, super tough, hard over height, really good around the basket with both hands, getting by people, really good dribble moves. And the thing I like about this guy, Kyle, and about any with my basketball like opinion or whatever, if there's one thing that I like guys that can do, and you make it happen in the mid range. Kafik Myers, a very good
Yeah.
mid range shooter, pulling up. So is a little guy, but he's a tough guy. And because of that toughness, that heart he has, there's definitely a role for him here. And there's definitely for him at this one level. So two good gets for St. Joe's. And like I said, Kyle, they have been always St. Joe's has always been able to recruit since Billy Lang's been there. But now they got to start putting some wins up. Now it's time to start showing people, okay, we've done all the recruiting. All my guys are here. I got my fingerprints on just about every guy in this program. I handpicked them. Now let's start showing it on the court. Let's have some success. I think this team is way too talented to fail, to not make a top 5 finish in the A10. And even in the future, with guys like this, with Mekhi Johnson and Kafik Myers coming in, that should be more the norm. He's got to start winning because these teams are way too talented to fail.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, we'll get into that when we do our season previews in the next coming episodes. But like you said, it's time. It's time for Billy Lang to start showing what his coaching abilities are made of. Obviously, the recruiting abilities are there. These are two pretty good recruits, especially, Kafik Myers staying in the city. It's huge. We talk about it all the time on this podcast of trying to get guys to stay in the city, whether really at any school, honestly. Philadelphia is a basketball haven that there's so many talented kids that come through here. And you want to be able to stay here. So it's good for Billy Lang that he's able to do that. Now you got to do it on the floor. You got your guys, especially guys who like to shoot the three, like Mekhi Johnson. Got nice lost starts with Kafik Myers. Time to get it going. Time to get it going. All right. Last little recruiting news here is a couple Penn recruits. And we don't get to talk about Penn recruiting a lot. Obviously, the academic standards, believe it or not, are higher than probably most other schools. So that does unfortunately weed out some of the talent, but it's for good reason. It's an Ivy League. They shouldn't be having academic standards like that. So anyway, 2024 recruits here. Michelangelo Oberti signed with Penn. He's a 2024 Morris Catholic High School attendee in New Jersey. 6'10", 220, power forward, center, kind of play both. And then also Braden Foster committed to Penn as well from Highlands High School and Narratona Heights. I don't know if I butchered that, but Pennsylvania chose Penn over Lehigh, Navy, and Central Arkansas. So they got some guys to replace some of the guys who are leaving. And we'll talk about one of those in a little bit. But Penn's going to have a little bit of a different identity this year. Obviously, Slacker's still there, who will be the one leading the bulk of the scoring. But outside of that, it's going to look really interesting. So how do these two, obviously this is the future we're talking about here. We're not talking about the 2023 season, but to kind of replenish some of the guys who have left and might continue to leave after this year, how will these two help with that?
Yeah, so with Michelangelo Berti, you look at last year's team, they're not going to have Max Lorca Lloyd anymore. They're going to need a guy. Obviously he's probably not going to be able to block shots to the level that Lorca Lloyd could, but going to need some depth down there. They're going to have Christian Ubochi there this year to help out with that. But to have a guy like Oberti who can stretch the floor a little bit and help out down low is going to be big. At least right now, they don't really have a stretch big. They're going to bring in, they have Donnie Walter from CSUN, have another guy like that who can score a little bit. Then with Braden Foster, going to be honest, they don't really know too much about this guy. It was kind of really late in verbal commits game. It just kind of popped out that he'd committed there. He had two Patriot League offers with Lehigh and with Navy, so I have to find some more out about this guy. Hard to find highlights on these like smaller type guys. You really got to do some digging. In Oberti's case, seemed like he was kind of a late bloomer too. As far as I could find, he had a D2 offer, I think, from Franciscan, and then had Ryder as well. So when you have I like you mentioned, it's hard at Ivy League schools to recruit. You got to find these diamonds that kind of fall through the cracks here. Maybe it's the late bloomer like Michelangelo Berti and a Braden Foster as well. But how often do you even talk about like transfers at all. It's very rare. I feel like we even talk Penn with
Yeah.
guys that aren't already existing on the team now. So we'll see if this is the end for them. I know they're bringing in a couple freshmen this year, so not sure if this is it for their 2024 recruiting. Maybe they can add another guy or two. Maybe there's another chance to nab another transfer like they got Johnny Walter. But hey, they're certainly busy as well, even with their high standards and everything, and them having to replace one.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a lot more difficult for Ivy League schools, but these guys they're really good at what they do, and they do a really good job of trying to replenish the farm here, if you will. So good on them. Hopefully some more information comes out about those two. We can, break them down a little more in the future, but we will get to that at some point. All right, that is it for recruiting. Before we get into current players, I do want to touch on one thing first. This was very interesting, happened a few weeks ago. LaSalle revealing, the new arena plan. So why don't we get into it? Supposed to have 360 viewing all around the court. They're changing the court orientation. I believe before it was like north to south. I think now it's east to west, if I'm not mistaken. Either or. They're changing it so there's more of a whole panorama view of the or a 360 view, like they said, of the court. Seats are supposed to be a little bit closer to the floor now, which is obviously great, especially for student section, which will be near the opponent's bench. Listen, that's phenomenal. You gotta have student section in the opposing benches here. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. Other things too, upgraded entertainment systems such as speakers and the monitor and stuff like that. They're gonna have hospitality and premium seating, so they can get some more, probably to get some more money that way, so they can get more suites in and whatnot. But that's how they should. It's how a lot of stadiums raise money, a lot of programs raise money. And then they're also going to have plans for a health and wellness facility next to Glazer Arena, which of course is the new name of the arena. It will no longer be Tom Gola Arena, but they still are going to honor Tom Gola, I believe, with the statue outside the stadium, some other things. So yeah, Cope, I know you've been wanting this for a long time, so I'm gonna let you take it away. How do you feel about these new arena plans? The renderings look pretty cool.
Yeah, they did. And this is certainly the star of our show, at least. I mean, how long have we been speculating and talking about this for us to finally actually get some plans and to see this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they are going to switch the orientation, like you said. The court's going to run parallel, or at least try to run parallel to Only Avenue now, as opposed to running parallel to Broad Street. And I think that's the biggest thing here. You want to add more seats. You want it to feel more like a basketball atmosphere, and not really like a high school game almost, because that's usually like, I know we're both North Penn alumni. Like that's how North Penn's gym is. It's you just have on the two sides.
Yeah.
So I saw the plans originally, and it kind of reminded me of the DAC a little bit where Drexel plays, because they have like some premium seating there. They have the seats on all four sides, but also reminded me just from why I haven't been to these two places, but just strictly from watching games. It reminded me a little bit of almost where Iona plays at the Heinz Center, and then the Burr where Howard plays, which is pretty cool. I think the Burr actually has more like there's not seats that back up like right to the stands. There's kind of like a wall. It's kind of very, very hard to describe, at least from the renderings. That's kind of what it looked like. It almost reminded me of the Burr at Howard. But when you have a smaller, more intimate atmosphere with 360 viewing, it looked like the roof was actually going to be kind of low in the place too, which I think will actually be like really good in helping them create a really loud atmosphere there.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. It's everything they could have wanted. They get some hospitality and some premium seating, like you said, for some more money. That's how rather than you walking in there and buying a $10 general admission ticket, now the explorers can up the price a little bit and get themselves a little more money that way. But yeah, also the entertainment systems, like you can't say bad. I can't say a bad word about this at all. The in-game experience, halftime entertainment, you know what I mean? Every single aspect about this rocks for LaSalle is going to make everything better for them. Even with the health and wellness facility, that now you can, also just besides athletics, you can make this a multi-purpose space for the whole student body as well. And me being someone who used to go to LaSalle, there's a couple like makeshift gyms in a couple of the dorms, and then you have IBX right by Rose, which is right next to where I stayed at St. Newman Hall. It's very, very tiny. So to now have a nicer, bigger gym that more people can use, it everybody wins here. I'll just put it that way. Ash Perry did a great job coming in here, getting these plans nailed down. I know Daniel Allen the president, when he got in there, this is kind of at the top of his list as well. So credit to the leadership as well in the athletic department for getting this done in a timely manner. And as soon as this season ends, they're going to start renovations on currently Tom Gola Arena, what's about to be Glazer Arena, and they're not going to miss a regular season game, Kyle. They're going to spend the summer renovating it.
How
It's going
about
to get
that?
done. They don't have to go play at the Palestra or find another place to play. Can't say a bad thing about this, Kyle. They're going to miss no games. It's going to be ready by next year. It's going to be just an enhanced experience all the way around. This is awesome for LaSalle. They needed this so bad to compete in the Atlantic 10 and to try to bring in better recruits. This is awesome in every single way for LaSalle and their community as well.
100%. And like you said, we have talked about this a lot on this podcast about wanting to get an upgrade for Tom Gola Arena. I mean, I know, especially in like the Big Five Twitter space, that's definitely something that's been talked about a lot too. And when these renderings came out, I mean, everyone was excited, and rightfully so. I mean, this is something very, very cool. And the fact that they're not going to miss a regular season game, it's going to be ready for the start of next season. They're going to be able to play in Tom Gola this year, then they'll renovate it to Glazer for next year. It's awesome. And it'll, like you said, it'll keep them up with the standards of the A10. And they need it because, I think you and I both can admit that the program was kind of on the rocks a little bit, it looked like a few years ago, before Fran Duffy came in. So now you get your legendary coach in, former LaSalle graduate who's been here for a year now, starting year 2, coming soon. You're gonna have the stadium or the arena renovation coming now. Things are looking up, and deservedly so, because LaSalle basketball fans have been suffering for probably a little too long. So this is yes.
More things I just want to add, like I know they're taking Tom Gola's name off the arena, but they still have the statue outside. They're going to name the
Yes.
driveway after him. Like the whole plaza thing is awesome to still give him his due for being, one of the best players in the history of the Big Five, but also probably the best player ever at LaSalle.
Yes.
Also, just one thing, and I'm sure they're going to put this in, but the fact that I see 360 or like court orientation here and a low ceiling, I just have one request for Tom Gola Arena. We can still call it that for the next year. Get some AC in there, please. My God,
I
is it
think
hot in there?
I
It
hope
is
they'll
so
upgrade
hot
that.
in there. Can we
Yeah.
just get some AC? And also, I know I said 2 things. Have to throw this in there too. Did not see any plans to get rid of the pool downstairs. Have to love that too. Glazer
Interesting.
Arena will still be the only arena, maybe ever, to have a pool underneath.
Listen,
So
unless
you're
something comes
not
out
Golden
about
Boys.
that,
We're not getting rid of that.
unless something, yeah, shout out to the Gold Boys, first of all. But unless something comes out about it, it does appear that it will be the only arena, maybe ever, to still have a pool underneath it, which would be very interesting. Because that does not happen.
Be
I
a
don't
real
know.
shame if they remove the pool. I think
Yeah.
we have to keep that.
Oh,
Like that is
it's a historical landmark at this point.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Definitely can't get rid of
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. All right. Couple player notes before we wrap up here. Chris Sendoko ruled eligible for the 2023-2024 season for the St. Joe's Hawks. Contrary to what one of us might have tweeted, I'm not going to name any names. He will be starting this year. I had a little glimpse of or had a little error rather. It's fine. We corrected it. We're all good. But 3-star recruit from last year's class. Joe's doesn't have a ton of big men, so he definitely will be sliding in and playing big minutes right off the bat. I think I saw in one of the secret scrimmages or whatever, he had like 15 rebounds, or something close to that. It might have been 13, but he definitely will have a good impact this year. But realistically, how do you project his 2023-24 season to look for St. Joe's?
So I'm not really going to get into like trying to project the stat line here.
No.
Also, was reading
Just
it. Yeah. I got you. But from everything I've gathered from the way the coaching staff talks about him, I was reading a St. Joe's preview on City of Basketball Love. Shout out to them and all the work that they do. And Billy Lang was like, "Look, like we think he can be very good, but also like I respect how good the competition is, and I respect how hard it is to be a good player at the Division 1 level. All things considered, he is a massive upgrade, pretty much in every facet: passing, shooting, rebounding. Being around the basket from Educate Urbina last year. Offensively, this is a huge plus in the offense department with Christy Sandoko in there as opposed to so it'll probably be a little bit rocky to start. They're going to play a good schedule. They play in a good conference with some good big guys, but offensively they're going to be a better team. And like I'm buying into his upside, and the coaching staff just raves about him. They do. So I like I said, it'll be up and down probably for his first season, especially last year. Was playing, or was able to I guess work out with the team but couldn't play. Now get thrown in the mix without really having played, really against somebody else, in a year. Maybe it's a little rocky to start, but offensively he's gonna be great. He's gonna be able to block shots. He's so talented that it's like I saw Rothstein tweet out. It's like crazy that a guy this good, is at St. Joe's. Not to talk bad about the program at all, but you know what I mean. For the A10 like this, and for St. Joe's, like this guy's really free. Oh, I'm buying into the upside of St. Joe's because I think Kreese will be really good, and I think he'll just continue to get better as the year goes on, and he'll be a damn good player and a damn good starter on a team in the A10 crowd. That I would be shocked if they didn't make the top 5, maybe the top 3. Like
I
the
agree.
talent's that good on this team. But he's a huge swing piece here in the ceiling of this team. I personally think he can fulfill that even in year 1. So I'm expecting quite a bit from him. Everybody has nothing but good things.
Yeah, it seems that way. And like you said, this team has incredible upside. I mean, like I think their upside could be winning the A10, and that might be a little bit of a stretch, but like that if that's their ceiling, that's a damn good ceiling. Their floor, I mean, I still think they finish in the top half regardless. It would be,
Yeah.
like you said, criminal if they didn't finish in the top 5. And I think it'll be a big piece of that. Obviously, we talk a lot about the guard play, but
like speaking about the guard play, like they might have the best player in the A10.
yeah,
Like I truly think, and again we'll get into it. I'm getting all excited because we're only a week
I
away here,
know.
but
I know.
I think Eric Reynolds is going to win A10 Player of the Year. Like I'll just go out and say that right
Could
now.
very well see it.
I think he's going to win A10 Player of the Year, and because of that, like if these guys can hit, if St. Joe's can be what I think they are, they're a dark horse to win this conference and be right.
Yeah.
Like this team is that good. So David, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. I trust
But
me, I want to
like
talk more about it right now, but
they're that good.
yeah, we're gonna get to it. All right. One more thing for this episode before we end this, and then the next time you see our faces will be for some season previews. A little bit sad note here, honestly. Penn's Max March is retiring from basketball. Very sad to see because, in our first season last year, he was a big piece of this Penn team. He was an honorable mention for All Ivy last year, started 27 games, led the team in starts, averaged 10.8 points per game, which was a career best, 41% from 3. This is a medical retirement from Max Martz, unfortunately, so can no longer continue his career. But what a career he had at Penn. He was definitely an integral part of those teams the last few years. Unfortunately, now Penn's gonna have to replace 3 out of the 5 starters, which I mentioned a little bit earlier with the recruits, but definitely gonna be a different looking Penn team. But Cope, I mean, this is definitely a loss that going into the offseason, I'm not sure that Penn saw coming, but definitely one that's gonna hurt for sure.
Yeah, and we knew they were losing a lot. Of course, losing Jordan Dingle, and then a guy who I really thought was the unsung hero of this team last year in Lucas Monroe. But now you lose Max Martz, you got to replace your entire perimeter now.
Yeah.
You got to replace your 2, your 3, and your 4. So unfortunately, it's another blow to Penn here. You get a guy who they frequently tried to target on the block with a mismatch to score in the paint with a runner in the paint. Shot the ball really well, had a career best, scoring mark, like you said, was dependable for them, started the most games on the team. And late in the year, he was constantly putting up double figures, 15, 18, couple 18 points per game, had a 22-point game pretty late in the season. Like he was really big for them scoring the ball. He really, like, as the season went on, he became, almost the second best scorer on the team at times. So really, really going to miss him. He would have been a senior this year too, which sucks. You would have had not only a guy who can do what he can on the court, but from a leadership aspect, you now have a guy who would have been a senior. So crushing blow. to Penn, honestly, because he really was a damn good player ever since he got there, but especially last year as well. Really, really important for this team on the offense, rebounding the ball as well. So sucks for Penn that he's got to do this, but wish him all the best. These things happen. Being a student athlete, I can't tell you from experience, but I mean, at least from what everything you hear, very, very demanding physically and mentally. And at the end of the day, like, I guess all his ailments just kind of piled up, and unfortunately, he's got to retire. But wish him all the best. Sounds like they really want to keep him around the program. It's unfortunate that it came to this. It's not that anybody's mad at him or anything.
No.
Kind of sucks that this is what it is. But the good thing is for Max Martz, he's going to graduate with a Ivy League degree after this year. So whatever he decides to go into, even though that probably won't be, at least playing professional basketball somewhere, he's going to be doing quite all right for himself. So wish him all the best in his future endeavors, unfortunately. But all in all, Kyle, another big loss in an off season that unfortunately has been full of them for the Quakers.
Yeah. Definitely stinks. Like you said, the leadership would have been incredible. And if they do keep him around, I'm sure he'll still be able to provide that leadership in maybe a different way. But definitely a big loss on and off the court. Max Martz, thank you for your time at Penn. We very much love watching you play, and best of luck in everything you do in the future. And yeah, that's really all I can say. It was definitely fun to watch for Penn last year. And that's gonna do it for this episode here, Cope. We are officially all caught up, and we are ready to roll for the 2023-2024 Big Five season. So next time we will have some season previews. So stay tuned for that. But before we get into that, Cope, any final thoughts here before we sign off?
No, I'm gonna go to bed. Gotta get the 5:40 a.m. train tomorrow. Another long week of work coming up. There's only 3 weeks left of football season for Penn, so I'll have a little bit more free time on my hands. But yeah, wish we could have done this a lot more often, a lot sooner. But I've been just working wild hours. You've been traveling. The Union are good. You guys are playing in pretty much every competition possible, and you got a ton of games. So, as Lil Wayne once said, "Sorry for the wait," but we're back now. We will be recording a lot more often. Our schedules are about to ease up a little bit, which is great that it aligns right with college basketball season.
Oh yeah.
But we got a week, so we're gonna have some previews for you. Pretty much the same thing we did last year. Like right before the season started, we gave you some thoughts on these teams. Then we let it rip when we started recording as these teams started playing. So really, really excited. Obviously, Kyle, we love football season, but for me, college basketball is the best season. Very, very excited for the part of the week. Even if it's just 5 games, it's Temple, Maryland, Eastern Shore, and it's Villanova American, and it's Lafayette St. Joe's, and it's Penn, probably the only game I'll be able to attend that day, the opening night, and playing John Jay College, which I believe is D2. I just want games. Just give me games.
We're almost there.
I just want to see college basketball on the TV.
We are almost there, Cope. We are very, very, very close. And yes, we do wish we could have given you these episodes sooner, so we could have maybe done the previews a little sooner. But listen, what better time to preview these teams than the week that they're about to play? Just so you're fresh and so you know, and we're going to make sure we give that information all for you over the next week or so. So stay tuned to that. As for this episode, we're all done here. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, great to be back. You have absolutely no idea. I know, Cope, you share the same sentiment too, as you just said. But pleasure to be back. We're gonna have a great year this year. Obviously, more on that in the season preview episodes. But for this one and for the ones coming and for the ones previous, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Of course, Big Five Pod. You can you can follow us on Instagram, and I'm still going to call it Twitter. We're not going to call it X. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Big Five Pod. And of course, the audio only versions will be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So definitely tune in there as well. And with that being said, we will get you some season previews next week. But until then, enjoy some football, rest a little bit, because you're not going to be able to sleep again until May. So with that being said, we'll see you next time.